Okay guys, in this lesson we talk about aerial perspective, which simulates aerial perspective effect. Basically, the effect the atmosphere has on the appearance of an object as it is viewed from a distance. As the distance between an object and a viewer increases, the contrast between the object and its background decreases, so those faraway objects will look fainter and hazier. This atmospheric effect works together with VRaySun and VRaySky to calculate an approximation to the aerial perspective effect. Sometimes environment fog can be replaced by aerial perspective and it is faster compared to environment fog, but it is not as accurate as environment fog and it cannot produce volumetric shadows like environment fog, which makes environment fog that interesting and realistic. In this scene we have a simple city model. Some simple buildings here and there. The camera is here and the sun is on the other side. And this is the render we get if we render the scene right now without aerial perspective. Okay, now let's add aerial perspective. From the rendering menu, go to the environment and effects window, and in the atmosphere rollout, add V-Ray aerial perspective, and now let's run the active shade. And we get our aerial perspective. We have some haze, the buildings in distance look less contrasty. Now the first option I want to enable here is affect environment rays. So the aerial perspective affects VRaySky in the environment if this option is enabled. And now we can see in the active shade that the aerial perspective affecting the VRaySky and makes it hazy. The first parameter here is visibility range in meters. This specifies the distance at which the fog has absorbed 90% of the light coming from objects behind it. Lower values make the fog appear more dense, while larger values reduce the effect of the aerial perspective. Let's start with 50,000. As you can see, the effect is less visible. Let's try 20,000, 10,000, 5,000, 2,000, and 500. So as we decrease the visibility range, we increase the effect of the aerial perspective effect. For now, let's set it to 500. We have atmosphere height, which is basically like the fog height parameter in the environment fog, and it defines where the aerial perspective starts on the z-axis. So if we use something like 25 meters, you can see the effect starts at 25 meters on the z-axis and continues downward indefinitely. Maybe let's try 10 here. Now let's set it back to 6,000 meter and set the visibility range to 2,000 meters. We have in scatter light intensity, which controls the amount of sunlight scattered from the atmospheric effect. The default value of 1 is physically accurate, and if I increase this value to something like 2, now because more sunlight scatters through the atmosphere, we get a brighter effect, even though not quite accurate. Let's set it back to 1. On the other hand, if I decrease it to something like 0.1, less sunlight scatters and we get a darker effect. You can see we can create some beautiful renders using this value. Let's set it to 1 for now. We have affect environment rays and affect background. When enabled, aerial perspective will affect the environment, and if we have anything else other than a VRaySky in the background, affect background controls whether aerial perspective affects that background or not. We have filter color, which affects the color of the in-scattered light and basically controls the overall color of the aerial perspective effect. Let's try different shades of blue maybe. Try some warmer shades. Maybe different shades of gray from darker tones to brighter tones. Now let me stop the active shade, and here we have some final renders with different aerial perspective settings. Just you know, adjusting filter color in scattering, while you visibility, range amount, and stuff like that. You can go ahead and experience and create different looks. Maybe we can add some curve correction to this second render, and I'm gonna do that for all the renders and try to just simply adjust their contrast using a curve correction and save them out. Okay. So that's about aerial perspective, and I will see you in the next lesson.